Hey guys, welcome to the Populate YouTube channel. So Populate is a metaverse design studio run by myself, and I'll be using this channel as a way to track some of the progress of some of the games and experiences that I'll be building, but also to give you insights into how to develop specifically for Meta Horizon Worlds and the Sandbox. So this first tutorial is essentially a team manager. Meta just released their Teams API for the Horizon SDK, Horizon Worlds SDK. It's not something I've had a chance to look at yet, but I think this team manager is actually quite helpful. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the script. So we start off importing the Horizon core as usual. But alongside this, because we are using the UI as well, we're going to import that so that we can make use of that. We define some enum states here. So essentially, enums are a collection of references which you can call. So as an example, when we assign to a team, we assign it to the teams that were referenced in this enum. So moving on, we then create a team manager class. So the team manager class is extending the UI component, and that's so that we can attach it to UI gizmo within Horizon Worlds. So this will basically talk to the UI gizmo and display the information that we want to display. So the first few lines are the list of players. So we create a list of players using an array, and the array type is string. So we've got the home player team and the away player team, and then just something that's not being used really at the moment is the unsigned players. But I might want to leverage that at some point, for example, if spectators come in, or we want some other use for players who might not want to join in with the team sport. So the next part is the bindings. So bindings are super important for UI, dynamic UI. And the reason for this is because you can't update the UI just by simply referencing your strings. You have to bind them to a UI binding. So then moving along in the pre-start section, so this is called just prior to the actual start, which we're not using in this instance, so I'm going to delete that. So these are basically where we're putting our event listeners, and those event listeners are listening for a player entering the world. So this is on player enter world, and the player leaving the world, so on player exit. And what we do when those events are triggered is we call this function. So that's how you call the inline function. And what we're doing is we're calling the assign player to team function, and we're getting the player's name, and that will then populate the string here. Okay. So for us to do that, when a player enters a world, essentially we get that player here. So hz.player, that's the class that represents the person entering the world, and there is a function on the player entity, which essentially just gets the name. So pretty straightforward there. So we're just collecting a list of names as strings. So that assign player to team function is just here. So here we have the player's name. And we start off by just making sure that the player is not assigned to any team currently. And that's just like a safety check. So we call the remove player from teams function there. And then we basically work out which team has the least amount of players. And then you get assigned to the team that has the least amount, so that each time it populates, it sort of tries to remain as even as possible. So the way this actually works in the game that I'm building at the moment, called Laser Cross. Essentially, you just join and you can start the game with one person, and it goes up to about 16, although I haven't tested that yet. Might have to drop that number. So essentially, we just create a team. So the team is the enum that we built up here, and that assigned team then checks to see whether home or away has the most. Depending on which one has the least, you would then be assigned to that team. Okay, so moving on, we have the remove player from team function as well. And this is basically just splicing an array. So we're getting the player's name from an index within that array, and then just taking that out. Okay, this is where things start to get a little bit weird if you're not used to the UI element of Meta Horizon Worlds. It's very similar to CSS. I think it derives from React, which isn't something that I've had any previous experience with, but it seems to be very CSS-like. So what we're doing here is we're essentially initializing the UI. What we're doing is we're returning the UI view, which is what will be displayed in the UI element. And then we have the children. So the children are essentially the text elements. And to populate those, we put them into a separate function. And we have the home team and the away team. So they'll be displayed side by side, even if there's no one in both the teams. There'll always be one person at least in the teams. Excuse me whilst I have a bit of coffee. Okay, so when these teams lists, when the team list function is called, we basically pass in the string, and this will then reference the bindings that we set up earlier. So if the team is, here we go here, if the team is equal to the away team, then this away player's binding is set with the get players in team function. So we call the team away enum there. So in the team list function, we basically pass through the two teams from this element here, and they are dealt with separately. So we've got the away team first, and this references the away player's binding, which, if you remember, we set right at the top here, where we binded that to the away player's array. And what we do is we pass in all the players that we have in the team, so via this get players in team function. So we then pass in the text element, which will show the team name. So we've got the team name here, which is equal to away team, and then just some general stylings there. So then we come on to the dynamic list. So the dynamic list is going to be the list of all of the players, in this instance in the away team, and we get that by taking the data, the map data from the away players binding, and then we render the player name essentially. So we render that into this separate UI view. We do the same again for the home player bindings. So it's basically just the same code, but just referencing home players. And that's essentially it. So we just have some helper functions here. So get players in teams, obviously you've seen earlier. Get player team isn't something that we've used yet, but it might be something that is helpful. So we're just looking at any of if the arrays include the player's name, then we can return that team. And then we just have a clear teams list, which will be quite helpful for when the match finishes, essentially. When people come out, we just basically reset all those teams and people can jump in again if they want to. Okay, so if we look at our scoreboard, here. This is where we have the team manager script attached, and this is scaled up quite heavily as well. We jump into the game. And we should see the UI with the player name. Okay, thanks for watching. If you want to check out the scoreboard itself and the team manager, you can get a few friends together and check out the game and see how that works. The link is in the description below, along with a link to the script itself, which you can just copy and use as you feel. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.